Apostate, apostle. It's kind of like a palindrome. Hello everyone, this is the much awaited second video wherein I present the case for Deism. I do have one quick order of business to attend to, and that would be the response Theramin managed on our discussion prior to my getting this video up. His response to my point about God needing to be unknowable was that it is my definition, not the definition, requiring that, and when unknowability is required, all practical discussion ceases. Specifically, he stated that, if you say we can't possibly know the God you posit, then practical discussion of it is totally redundant. It is no more fruitful than discussing the idea that we're all in a virtual reality video game. Theramin then reminded me that the definition of omnipotent means simply can do anything. Well, I had been planning to make the argument that though an omnipotent being can't be limited, it seems to have limited itself in this universe, as some things we can think up can't be done without breaking the rules of this universe. I brought up an analogy stating that the omnipotent being can make something be 100% the color red and 100% the color blue at the same time. However, within the rules of our universe, this would require at least one of the terms red, blue, or 100% be redefined. The only problem with this is that it still ignores the definition of omnipotent. I'm effectively demanding that God would have to limit itself while defining it as having no limits. Well, as a person of faith, I can square the idea that God is unknowable and thus requires faith. I will certainly not include this kind of logical fallacy in my arguments. So either I have to limit the definition, or I need to admit that it certainly could do what I have been saying it couldn't. In either case, points for this debate go to Theramin. This leaves me with the case for Deism as useful. In brief, a deist is someone who believes in God as a universe creator, but also believes that this God has taken no active role since the inception of the universe. In my own case, I reasoned that if God really was all-knowing and all-powerful, or perhaps powerful enough, and perfect, that it would not make mistakes when creating, and it would be able to factor in everything, so no additional contact would be needed. One of the first things we get from this line of reasoning is a realization that, belief in a higher power or not, the means available to us are reason and intellect, and those are our best tools for personal and species advancement. Deists expect no intervention from on high and conduct ourselves accordingly. I personally find this empowering because it reinforces the belief that I already possess everything I need. At this point, I'd like to make reference to the work of Thunderfoot. Before I do, I'd like to state that I have the utmost respect for his work, and I'm making every effort to represent his position as he intended it. In the video, the Thunderfoot Ray Comfort Discussion, Part 5, Thunderfoot makes reference to the ability of the human mind to create a model of a person in our head. He also refers to the Milgram experiments and implies that as a species we often accept alpha authority figures due to biological tuning. Finally, he states that quite often a number of beneficial placebo effects can be derived from the imagined super-alpha God, even if this being is demonstrably only a figment of our imagination. I believe he meant this to show that God could very well be a figment of our imaginations, as an underscore to his atheist stance in the discussion with Ray. What I want to point out is that derived from a belief in a real being or an imaginary one, a placebo effect can be useful as long as there are no harmful side effects, or at least as long as any harm from side effects is less damaging than the benefit of the placebo is worth. The last few thousand years demonstrate amply that the harmful side effects of religion rather grossly outweigh the benefits. However, in this instance, Deism shines forth as a very powerful tool of reason. It seems to me that the worst excesses of religion are intrinsically tied to the dogmatic notions which come up with most branches of theist faith. The moment you embrace any holy text, you pick up a sack of logical contradictions and outdated moral concepts, which are now tied to your conception of a personal super-alpha God, and are a ready-made handle for others to manipulate you with. This is especially clear when we see what happens in poorly educated populations where charismatic and dogmatic leaders whip up their flocks into a righteous frenzy. What does all this have to do with deism? Well, simply this. We remain persons of faith. However, our reasoning about our faith leads us away from dogmatic notions and is not at odds with scientific learning. In fact, it encourages it. It is also accessible to others of faith who may be victims of dogmatic manipulation. Many persons of faith have been conditioned either by their leaders or from fear of the unknown, or even just personal offense, to instantly reject anything someone claiming to be an atheist says to them. Deists are able to approach these people on a level of comfort as one person of faith to another. This is aided by the common concept that there is only one God. In my conversations with theists, I'm often able to allay their initial resistance to conversation and the subsequent thought by agreeing that God is out there. I can then relay what my thoughts on this universe are in that framework, how we can know that holy texts must be works of men because God has no need to write them. This is a powerful tool in combating harmful dogma. Put simply, dogmatic control and ideas are dangerous. They have a significant and long-lasting negative effect on our progress, and they lead to violent altercations where there would otherwise have been the possibility of peace. Deism is directly opposed to this excess.